Welcome to Inside the Thunder. I'm KD Hudnall, and on this show, I go one-on-one with some of the most recognizable names in Marshall athletics history. He ranks in the top 15 all-time in 5 major categories at Marshall, top 10 in 3 of those. He led Marshall in interceptions in 1995, won a national championship in 1992, and has 3 overall national championship game appearances on his record. He was second team All-Southern Conference in 1995 and compiled an overall record of 47-12 with the Herd. Today, we're going inside the Thunder with McKeesport, Pennsylvania's very own number 29, Jayson Grayson. Joining me this week on Inside the Thunder is a guy I actually know. Usually I'm talking to people that I don't really know, but this is my buddy, man. We go back decades, my man, right. Decades. This is the post-playing career in which I know Jayson Grayson, everybody. But Jayson and I have been friends for a long, long time, and we're going to be able to reconnect a little bit via the Inside the Thunder episode. I want to hear some of these stories I've never heard before, I'm sure. I heard a lot of them. Now, before we get into a lot of this stuff, first, thanks for sitting down with me. And, God, let's reminisce for a little bit, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Definitely. Me too.
I got to say one thing real quick that I remember from way back in the day is I spent a little bit of time at your apartment, and we would hang out and you would always play the VHS of the 1995 national championship game. And you would get so, like, you would dissect it play by play. Like, this is where this happened, and this is where this. And it was like, you got to let me in on, like, what was it? Was that just like something that just kept making you angry and you just couldn't stop reliving it? Or what the hell was that?
Absolutely. I still talk about it to this day. I tell my kids, like, look, I can't believe it. It's instilled in me. The green is instilled in me. But
I know,
it's just something that I've always enjoyed, just playing. Yeah. The green and white and just playing, and even if it's wins or losses, if I go back, like I tell my son now when he's playing, look at film, look at something, look at somebody playing. But that's just me. I learn from your mistakes. I know I didn't play after that, but I still just wanted to see what happened. What could we have done better? So yeah, of course, I will watch. And matter of fact, it's so funny. I watched it like a week ago. I don't know why.
Wait a minute, the same VHS. I was gonna say the entire game is on YouTube. Like,
right. I know. That's why I did it. Because like if I pull up the VHS, my son's like, what is going on here? What is this?
I'm guilty too. I was watching it just a couple of weeks ago. Over the course of a couple of days, I found some of those older games, and it surprised me. Like, the entire broadcast was available right there to watch. And
I know.
But no, I wanted to toss that out. We were talking a little bit before I hit record button about maybe something will get unlocked in your brain, and that got unlocked in my brain in real time. That's a 20-year-old memory, man.
I know.
And well, not quite 20, 17-year-old, but still, it's really good to have you here. I'm really glad you decided to say, yeah, man, let's talk a little bit, because
thank you for having me, man.
I told you that you have been requested by name several times over the weeks, and I was like, all right, let me see if I can make this happen. I can't promise this to everybody, but I know Jayson, so I knew if I could connect with him, he'd go,
absolutely,
yeah, let's do that. All right, so let's start at the beginning, my brother. How does a kid from McKeesport, Pennsylvania, I remember that too, end up in Huntington, West Virginia, playing for the Herd? How did you get recruited down West Virginia?
Coach Selfo recruited me. Shouts out to Coach Selfo. He was my man when he first came to see me in McKeesport. They were actually coming to see another guy on my high school team by the name of Mike Logan. They were coming to see him. He ended up eventually going to West Virginia, but they were coming to see him play. He was a running back, and that game I had a score. I think I scored a running game. I'm running as a slot receiver. I scored a touchdown, and I took an interception back, and I had another interception, and that's how I got started. They started looking at me. He came to my high school. He talked to my teachers. I was like, yeah, me? You talking to me? So, I mean, it really got me excited. And then, Marshall, I took a trip to Marshall, and that was it. That was
Yeah.
it. I totally enjoyed the atmosphere. It was away from home, it was away from McKeesport, and far enough for me to come back home when I needed to, but far enough to be away
Yeah.
and to be on my own. So I totally enjoyed it, and I would never take anything back.
Yeah. How so you took a visit, right?
Mhm.
And you're there. Was there a moment, a singular moment in time where something struck you the right way or you saw something or you went, this is where I'm supposed to be?
You know, when I first came, Glenn Pedro was the guy that was taking me around, and
Yeah.
just knowing that I seen the program where Pedro is when they was building the stadium, and I seen
Oh
the
yeah.
program with Pedro, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude's huge, and he's taking me around. Like I felt
Yeah.
like I was important, and it was me, and I think it was Brian Reed was with me, and we would just he took me around, and I just fell in love with Marshall. I'm like, these guys are like superstars. They're on this program, and they're taking me around, and I was like, I gotta go. This is something like I'm not going anywhere else. I
Little
told
starstruck.
yeah,
Oh.
I told you all the schools I'm not coming. I'm going to Marshall. I'm ready.
Well,
Just knowing that this guy, was on this program. I mean,
yeah.
you see high school programs, but I've never seen a college program like that. And these guys are on there, and I was like, oh wow. And I'm staring straight at them. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to go here. I got to
Well,
go.
that's great, man. Because Glenn is a friend of our show. He's a big supporter of what we do, and he's always been very complimentary of what we're trying to do for the Herd fans and stuff. And I
Right.
don't know if you know this, but his son's now on the
Oh yeah.
roster
Oh yeah.
down
Yep.
in Huntington. Cam's a wide receiver looking to make some waves and maybe get a little PT this year, but you know what? I never even put two and two together that you were visiting right around the time that the stadium was being
Yeah.
built. That just didn't resonate with me, and I
Yeah.
even knew that it was the same time frame. So,
Mm-hmm.
so what about the vibe in Huntington at that time? Because these guys are building towards a championship, right? I mean, a not a SoCon championship, a national championship, and that's what would happen in 1992. So
Yeah.
you're there as this is about to culminate. You're a freshman on that roster, right? In
Right. Right.
1992.
Mm-hmm.
So do you remember much about the vibe around town during that
The
whole
vibe was
season?
awesome.
Yeah.
The vibe was great. I mean, it's that '90s, even '92 was probably when they're winning. They had that winning vibe. They had that
Yeah.
winning attitude. Everybody around town, everybody in Huntington just heard this, heard that, and they were winning, and that was something that I was totally was timed into, loved it. That these guys are about to just win a national championship, and my family was excited. My dad, of course, like I was telling you earlier, my dad's still a Herd fan. He was excited. He wanted to come down. It was that vibe that they had, and I was like, you see that on TV with other schools, but you never got a chance to experience
Yeah.
that vibe and that winning attitude. And that back in the early '90s, you don't get a chance to see that. You know, being from Pitt or Penn State, where I used to see the college teams, this was winning. This was something that I knew it was going to be last. It was going to last for a long time. So that vibe was wonderful.
Yeah, it's also an interesting thing because we think of college sports now, and you can watch any game basically anywhere because they're on everywhere on
Right,
TV. And
right,
this is a different era. It's like Marshall wasn't on TV all the time.
right,
They might have been on Channel 3 or something. WSAZ locally was broadcasting maybe, but you weren't going to tune into it ESPN or ESPN Plus
right,
and watch. It didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. So you capture this period in time, this little true college town. Huntington is a true college
right.
town.
It
It's not
really
a pro
is.
sports town. So you're capturing this whole like era of high achievement, championship level, all time greats, but nobody else really outside that small area is seeing that.
Right,
Outside of the fan. So you walk in and you're like, holy crap. Like this
right.
is a unique little thing. This is Penn State maybe, but just shrunken down and
Yeah.
concentrated, but just as wild,
Yes,
right?
and yes, totally agree. Totally agree.
Wow.
And just walking around town, just having the Herd shirt on, walking around town,
Yeah.
everybody had the vibe.
Yeah.
Everybody just loved the Marshall winning. Even when I went back home, I had my Marshall shirt. Oh, you went to Marshall? Oh, it was. They saw how Marshall was winning. They was like, oh my. So yeah, it was definitely a great experience in
I
'92.
bet. I bet. I mean, I'm not going to date myself really. I'm not trying to make you feel bad here, but you know, so what does that do to you as a freshman? You win a national championship as a freshman. You're on the roster as a freshman, right? So what moving forward, what does that do for your mental as you prepare to become a contributor, then become a starter, then become a high performer? What is that? What seed does that plant in your brain in 1992 as a young guy?
It plants in what can I do?
Yeah,
What can I contribute? And then you look at who's all playing back then. It was Charlie McGregor or Thomas Moore, the DBs, and then you had Melvin, and
yeah,
so you're looking at Twan. These guys were coming in. You're like, oh man, this is competition.
mhm.
This is something that you love, you enjoy. And back then when I was young, I was like, I don't I'm I don't want none of this. They're like, this is like 1,000 people I gotta compete with.
Yeah.
So it makes you a better person. It makes you a better person knowing that you got to compete. You got to compete to get that spot, on a winning team that's going to have that winning tradition that you think that's going to happen from '92. You want to do it from '93. You want to do it from '94. So you want to be a part of that. So you just got to buckle down and knowing that you got to grind. You got to grind in your own way to be a part of this.
How much of your approach is like this will not go downhill on my watch? How much does that weigh into you? You're like, man, we're way up here, and as long as I'm here, we're gonna be up here.
Absolutely, and that should be for anybody that play collegiate sports. You got to have that the mentality, that Kobe mentality, that like
Okay.
this is it. You got to practice, you got to watch film, you got to make yourself better. Practice. When you practice the best, the way you practice, the way you're gonna play the game. So you got to come out and practice and be the best at practice because you got to show that in the game. So you got to have that mentality that I'm going to be the best. Whether you may have a bad day, you may have a bad practice, but the next day I'm coming back. I'm coming back to be the best. You always got to myself. I've always told myself I got to be the best. I'm the best out here because that's the mentality you got to have.
Man, I mean, I know it's hard in from a non and look, we go way back. You know how the limitations of my athletic ability. But it's always very, very interesting to me to see how the mental wiring and the approach to the preparation, to the game, to everything that goes in, that's always very fascinating to me, to how people how much ownership they take,
Right.
right? How much do you just rely on your athletic ability because you're just athletic and you've always been athletic, or are you also willing to accentuate that with hard work and film study
Oh,
and doing
absolutely.
your homework and refusing to be second best to the guy who's lined up across from you? Or is it friendly competition between you and Melvin, and you're like, I'm winning
Absolutely.
practice today, dog, it's not you, it's going to be me today?
Absolutely. You got to have that mentality. But you got to have the approach for to be the best. You got to watch the film. You got to see who your opponent is. You got to see who you're competing with. And like when we're in practice, we're doing one-on-ones. I gotta go against Tim Martin. I gotta go against Theron Todd. They beat me one play. I gotta come back and I gotta hit them in the chest the next play because they ain't beat me again.
Right.
So you got to have that mentality that whether it be practice, whether it be in the game, whether it be in a film session, whether it's Coach Lambert telling me how to better myself, or Coach Matthews saying I need to do this on this part of the defense. You got to take every advice and then take every advantage to make
Yeah.
yourself the better guy.
Yeah.
So you have to have that mentality. But film always is a part of your ability to be better, because if you're not watching yourself lose, you can't get better. If you're not watching yourself get better, you can't see what needs to be fixed on certain areas, whether it be backpedaling, whether it be covering a certain position, or covering a certain route that you have to cover as a DB. So you have to take every approach every day.
I think you guys as DBs have an extremely hard job. I couldn't imagine having to execute the movements alone, not nothing else with the ball skills and the coverage skills. And it's like, dude, you guys got to be so fluid in the freaking hips, and
Yeah,
you got to be able to swivel and move. I can't imagine doing that, right? I mean, I always thought I was a good, I could move a little bit, but dang, I look at some of these greats, and I'm like, this looks like ballet. This is like boxing. This is like, it's a sweet dance that it takes an extreme amount of
right.
skill that I just can't fathom. I can't fathom it.
Yeah.
So my hat always goes off to DBs. I think they have a really, really tough job. Not that anybody really has an easy job on a football team, but dang, I
Yeah,
mean,
DBs is hard.
you're moving backwards. You're moving backwards a
Yeah.
lot, and
Yes.
and you ain't meant to move backwards.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So do me a favor. I want you to take a second here, and I want you to tell me a story that you recall that just always makes you smile. Now, look, this is all you, right? This is all you. I don't. It can be something lighthearted and fun. It can be something that taught you something. It can be as off-putting or off the cuff or straightforward as you want it to be. Because I love these. These are the ones of the millions of stories that I don't know, that Herd fans don't know. So, a particular game, a day after practice, a time in the locker room. I don't care what it is. I want to hear these stories so that we get to know Jayson Grayson a little bit more.
I tell you one before I even got on the field when I was talking to you earlier about when you see all these DBs and you got to be competitive and you got to compete with these guys. I called my dad one day. I said, Dad, can't do it. I said, there's 50 other me out there. I can't do it. I said, I'm coming home. Next thing I know, I heard click. I'm like, did he just hang up on me? So I called him back. I said, did you just hang up on me? He said, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Don't come home until you compete. And he hung up on me again. And that's when I knew, one, I can't come home.
Yeah.
But two, I need to buckle up. I need to be a man, and I need to go out there and compete. And that's when I knew that, I'm not going anywhere. Let's make it happen. I'll do whatever it takes for me to get better, to earn my spot.
So what was it? What was it that made you question yourself? Because you're easily, for me, and yes, I'm biased, but you're easily one of the best DBs, safeties, whatever you want to call it, that I've ever seen at Marshall. And yeah, I've watched you play. Like, even though I wasn't around when you were playing, I've watched plenty of games when you were playing. So what in the hell could have possibly been like, I'm not good enough, I can't do this? How did that enter into your brain, man?
It's mental. Just mental, being out there, being young, and being out there and thinking, because I tell people all the time, when you're coming from high school, you get recruited, you're that best guy on that recruiting day, but you forget there's 20 other recruits coming in the same time with the same position, playing the same field you playing in, and they got recruited too. So going out there and practicing, you make a little bit of mistakes here, you get beat here, or you didn't know the defense here. Being that young and competing and wanting to get that spot, it messes with your mind a little bit. Like, hold on, is this really for me?
Yeah.
And that's when that's when he gave me that wake up call and saying, hey, this is for you. You better buck up because you ain't coming home. I'm not coming up to get you.
Yeah.
So,
make it work, son.
Yeah, definitely. Make it work. Make it work somehow. Make it work.
Well, hell, it seemed to work out pretty good.
Right.
We were joking around a little bit before we hit the record button, and I asked you if you knew what your wins and losses record was as a player at Marshall. You were pretty close.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty impressive, man. I had it written down. Now I lost my page. 47-12. 47-12 in 4 seasons at Marshall. I mean, brother, that's more than 11 wins a year. If you get that this day and age, they'll build statues for you.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But that was just the way. And that ruins a lot of fans, right? Guys my age, they're like, man, we used to win all the time and blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, but it was a different era, and they had something really special. We still have something special in Huntington. We do.
Right.
But it was special back then.
Right.
We covered it. We covered why and the whole aura around the city and what put Marshall on the map. And wow, it was just a great time, man. So when you think about the playing time, the playing days, what do you remember most? What do you is it game stuff or is it not game stuff?
I think it's everything. I think it's everything. I think going back to you're warming up for that game and you're hearing Thunderstruck.
Okay.
To this day, I hear Thunderstruck. I'm like, oh, I'm looking around like I need to get my
helmet. Hair raise up on your arms a little bit.
Like, oh my God, Thunderstruck! And I'm singing, and my wife's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So, but it's hearing that song and the preparation before the game and walking around that field and getting your mind right, and then the kickoff and you're nervous because you don't want to get beat out there and You get your first tackle and you feel all right, and then the game is over and we won the game, and you're like, oh, made it through this one, but we got to do it another one. We got to do
Yeah.
it next week, and then practice. So, this, and then walk. Being in Huntington, like you said, Huntington is a sports town. That was Marshallstown. It's still Marshallstown.
Still is.
And just having that vibe, that knowing that the whole town supports you, regardless, win or lose, they're going to support you. They might not be happy when you lose, but they're still going to be there. They're still going to be at the games, and that was the feeling that you had every week. That Saturday is going to be packed with Marshall fans. Saturday is going to be packed with fans that enjoy good football. And then now you got your brothers, you got your Herd brothers with you, and now you're ready to play because they're ready to play, and everybody's focused, ready to get this win. So that was, to me, that was the best feeling, was warming up, hearing that music, hearing that same song every week, but knowing that it's game time.
Wow. Yeah.
And really, you know,
That's pretty cool, man. Most guys, when I ask them that similar question, they'll say, well, I don't so much remember the on the field stuff, because no matter how good you were, no matter how many games you won, how many games you lost, a lot of the games kind of run together. It's the locker room for me. It's the moments where we're, out of our pads and we can just be ourselves around our brothers is what I remember the most and what I miss the most. But that's very interesting, Jason. I'm going to be honest with you here. And I really don't expect that. I wouldn't expect anything less from you. Is you hear the song and you think, man, I'm reliving my routine from a game day.
right.
I can smell the locker room while I'm getting dressed. I can see the sun shining through the doors of the shoey, like the whole thing that you can't explain to someone because you can visualize it.
Right.
And then you hear the song, and you might be out shopping somewhere, and they play Thunderstruck strikes up, and all of a sudden, I smell the locker room.
Right.
All of a sudden, I smell game day atmosphere. That's so
I'm in
wild.
Target and I hear it, and I'm about to tackle a pillow because
That's so wild to me, man. But I wouldn't expect anything less. Honestly, that's such a cool thing. That's such a cool thing. I was not expecting that. That was super cool, man. Tell me about some guys that were on your teams, 92 through 95, that fans just need to know, because they showed up for you. Right. They showed up every day. They showed up for the Herd fans. They showed up for their teammates, their coaches, but they're not the superstars that everybody knows. Who are those guys that were superstars for you?
Man, going back to the DB, being with the DBs all the time, you see the Thomas Maxwells, you see the Scott Smythes, Shannon Morrison, BJ Summers, those guys, even Tim Floyd, those guys were in the trenches, whether it be at practice, they're giving their all. Those guys were they were motivating. They were motivating. We all, as DBs, we were brothers. We were all brothers. You had Melvins and you had Grass Johnson, but the guys that the people don't really talk about, the Thomas Maxwells, the BJ Summers, those guys worked their butts off, and that was one of the things that we had a tough neck group. We would get together, we would eat. Coach Lambert would have us at the house. We would eat together. It was fun. It was fun, and even going back to before I got there, I tell you one guy, Reggie Giles was a big inspiration for me. We played softball together too as well, but just getting his insight, seeing him play. I used to watch him play all the time. Just seeing him play and knowing his skills that he had and what he told me and taught me. Oh, I can never. That Reggie Giles was definitely helpful for me.
Yeah, that's a great dude to bring up, right? Because he was a 2-sport star at Marshall. Yeah. I'm not too sure how many of this new era young, I call them new era fans because I mean current students and got of that age. But that's an all-time great. I mean, that's a Hall of Famer, right? Because he was a 2-sport athlete at Marshall. I still think he's might be the career leader in interceptions at Marshall. Still.
Oh yeah, Reggie Giles. There's Chirico, Yuri Hill, all these guys. All these guys in that DB room was great. Tommy Moore, Um, I mean, just watching those guys play back, and of course the late Twan Reynolds. Just watching these guys play, and it was awesome. And then at the linebacker, Albert Barber. A lot of people don't talk about Albert. Albert was a monster at linebacker, a monster. So just watching those guys play and how they get prepared and ready to go. Oh, that just made me that I wasn't a high rah who high type guy on the field, but I definitely showed it just knowing that I had those guys next to me and beside me, or just cheering me on. Man, that was definitely helpful for me.
Wait a minute. You're trying to tell me you weren't a trash
No,
talker?
no,
What?
no.
That is not the Jayson Grayson I know.
No, when I played the arena, that was different. That was totally different. But I'm Marshall. Because I didn't want to mess up. I was one of those
Okay.
guys that I just did my job and go off the field, and then you hear me after the game. But during
Right.
the game, I just never was that guy in your face because I didn't want the next play to be me getting beat for 90. So
Right. Okay.
I
I
just
can
never
dig. I can dig the silent assassin approach too.
right.
I like that. I like the. I ain't got to talk it because my game does the talking. I like that too. I'm just saying. But if you'd have told me to make a bet on whether or not Jayson Grayson was a trash talker in the early '90s, I'd have said hell yeah. I'll bet the farm on
For
that,
real, I know.
and I'd have lost my ass on that bet, I guess. But that's all right. We're gonna get a little deep just for a second.
Mhm.
This is gonna provoke a little thought from you because it's a little serious and it's something that you probably come across here in a few more years because you've
Okay.
got kids, right? But you think back to when you're going through the process and the recruiting process, and you talked about calling dad up. Man, I quit. I'm done with this shit. I
Right.
can't do it. So thinking back to senior high school Jayson Grayson, freshman in college Jayson Grayson, what advice do you give to that kid, your younger self that you know now about going through the process and ball?
You know what? I would take don't take anything for granted.
Mm-hmm.
You got to approach every day like it's your last, and whether it be going to practice. I was that guy that always got in trouble in the weight room. I hated the lift. I hated the lift. Oh, I was man. I used to run the stairs all the time because I just hated that. That's right there,
Yeah.
lifting. Getting your body right. Nowadays, it's so totally different than back then. You got so many things that they have that can help you, build your body up, lift, get in shape, watch film, watch the guys that you admire back in the day. Your favorite player on the pros, your favorite player in college. Watch them, see how they play,
Mm-hmm.
see how they watch their position, see what they do, make yourself better. Have that mind frame that I'm coming in knowing that I'm the best, not just coming in just to get a scholarship or coming in just to be on the part of a team. You want to be that guy that they talk about, that they talk about 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And it starts with from the beginning is being in that weight room, studying, watching film, practice hard. Don't take any practice for granted because that one practice may be the decision that you make if you're going to start or sit the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to take every approach like it's your last.
So is that truly what separates those that can be great from those that are just great players? Is that
I think so. I think
the added work?
I think so. Just the added work. My favorite player growing up was Dion. That
Okay.
was my favorite player, and I used to watch him. I used to watch him, and even to this day, I watch him. I'm a Colorado fan because of Dio, but I listen to his speak, listen to his what he did back in the day, playing at Florida State or even at Atlanta. Of course, I'm a Cowboy fan, so watching him with the Cowboys, but I analyze everything that he's done. Even if I wasn't playing, I just watched former players, just see what they've done and just analyze what he could have did or what you should have done. That's what kids need to do now. You can't be that person. You got to be better than that person.
That's
You know,
that's that's true. That's true.
when you got guys now who they may look at the great B.J. Cohen or they may look at Chris Parker and look at things like that. Be better than them. Be better than Chad Pennington. Be better than Doug Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
Look at their film, see what they've done, but be better than them. Be better than Grass Johnson. So just look at film, watch their technique, and see what you can implement. See what they done, and see what to make things better for you.
Yeah, that I can dig that, right? Because again, I'm not doing this in a in an athletic arena, right? But I do try to find ways to become a better person to converse with,
Right.
to talk with. I try to find better ways to ask questions. I try to find more intriguing ways to engage folks I'm
Absolutely.
talking with. And I can't say that whether I'm being successful at it or not, but it,
You still there?
well, I mean, folks are still enjoying
Right.
the show, right? So
Exactly.
obviously something's good. They ain't tuning in for me, buddy. I'll tell you that. They're tuning
But no,
in for who I'm
but they
talking
are.
to.
But they are. And it's just your testimony that you sit there and you watch
Yeah,
and you try to better yourself, better the questions that you have.
man.
That's all it takes.
The people that I talk to make me better than I actually am. Okay, because you guys have such great stories. You have such great advice and insight. I, I mean, it doesn't take me to ask the question for you guys. You guys make the show, and I know that, man. I'm the luckiest dude in the entire fan base because I do this. I sit here and I
Right.
talk to these great players and great men and great women, right? And I don't. I often wonder how did I become the guy that is
Right.
doing this? Because man, I'm the luckiest dude going. Just period. Um, I know we talked about this a little bit, but I need you to try to pinpoint it for me.
Okay.
Why is it that Marshall is special to you?
I think
Still,
giving me that opportunity.
yeah, okay,
And I think you get when you're that high school guy and you think you're the best at what you do and you're getting recruited, but they gave you and Marshall offered me an opportunity to come scholarship. When Coach Selfo came to my living room and was talking to my parents and said we want him, and my mom was like, "Are you sure?" Because this
you sure?
he's like, "Are you sure?" Because this this guy said the same thing. This coach has said the same thing, and we told him he told him to get lost, but he was like, "No, we want him.
Yeah,
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving, ma'am, till you tell me." And my mom looked at me, and I was like, "I'm going." I said, "I'm there," and that's all it took for me. And I gave him my all, whether it be in the classroom, whether it be on the field. Um, I gave him my all, and to this day, when Herd comes on, I'm there. If I got to
hmm,
go down the street, I'm watching them. I'll always be green and white,
yeah,
and nothing else will change. But they gave me that opportunity. They gave me the opportunity to say, "Here, show me what you can do." And I was, I had to prove. I had to audition. I had to audition myself to show them that, hey, you picked the right guy. You ain't wasting the scholarship on somebody else.
yeah,
You picked the right guy. So that to me, just giving me that opportunity to say, hey, we want you, and we serious about it. That changed me right there. I was always going to be a Herd for
yeah,
life.
yeah. I can dig it, man. I can dig it. I didn't have that general experience, right? Nobody was coming after me. I filled out my application to please take me.
Right.
That's what I was saying. Please let me come to
Right.
your school. But I was all in, man. I mean, from day one,
Oh
I
yeah.
get it. It gets under your skin, it gets in your blood, and you just can't get rid of it. And
And
then
it
you
was
learn,
and it wasn't big. It's
yeah,
Huntington is Huntington. It's not
yeah,
huge. You don't get lost in the city or lost on campus. We were all just there, so we all had to be together. We were all together, whether it be in the cafeteria, whether it be out and about in the schoolyard, whether it be going to the basketball. We were all together all the time. So that was the best feeling about it, is that we seen each other all the time as Herb
yeah.
Russ.
I dig that. It does feel like you're kind of in it together,
Right.
Not just players. I mean, players and people that live in the city and students and teachers and coaches and everybody. You just kind of
Right.
feel like you're in this thing together.
Yeah.
It is Huff said this not too long ago. He said Huntington is and Marshall is big enough to matter but small enough to care. And
Right.
I think that nailed it. Like it is.
Absolutely.
It is just big enough to fit right in there to where you can do what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Small enough that you are not lost in the crowd.
Absolutely. Totally
And
agree.
yeah, he really freaking nailed that. Look, you mentioned some coaches to me a little bit ago, and this is one of my favorite things when I do this show. Uh, what are some of your favorite coach saying some of those coaches that you had. What were they
Oh wow.
What were they yelling at you that you can't get out of your head now? Because I got one. I told you when I was talking to Aaron Ferguson, he gave me a great one that Mickey Matthews used to say every day to start practice. And I'm curious as if that one's in your brain too, because I'm gonna bring it back to you if it's not.
Mickey Matthews has some sayings all the time. I can't even pinpoint one thing that but he always had some sayings. And some sayings that I can't say on the show, but
That's what he said too.
He always had some sayings. Always. Yeah. There wasn't a day that went by that he had some sayings. And honestly, he was probably the only one that had some sayings. You know, Lambert would say, Coach Lambert would say some stuff a little bit, Coach Gale a little bit, but Matthews was the one.
He's full of them,
every day. We warming up, and he's saying, "Who knows what."
Well, I'll tell you, because Aaron said it was very deliberate. He said we at the very beginning of practice every day, he would say plainly, "We are going to find out who wants it today, men."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Damn, that sets a tone right there."
Yeah.
It does to me.
It's
like, all right.
Every day when we was warming up, he go down East Line. He go down East. When we was warming up, he go down East Line while we stretching.
Yeah.
See who wants it today.
We are going to find out who wants it today, men. And I didn't even play, and that makes me go, damn, this is not going to be easy.
Especially we were scrimmaging that day, or oh my gosh, he would definitely. He was loving it that day.
Who's the toughest guy you ever had to go up against, both in practice on the Herd rosters, and then maybe a guy that was pretty tough for you to cover? I've never asked anybody this before.
You know what? I think in practice, definitely the receiving core. I mean, start off with Theron Todd. He was quick as lightning, and I couldn't stand it. But man, goodness gracious, he made me better. He made him and Tim Martin made me better. Little Ricky made me better. I mean, those three guys made me the DB that I was, because having to go against them, they were quick. They knew they was precise. They knew their routes. And being DBs, you had to figure, you trying to figure out what they're doing. Man, sometimes especially with that, I would grab him to Tim. I would grab his face mask or something. but those guys, the receiving core definitely made me better. I didn't have to go against T.O. too much, because he was on. I didn't have to go against him too much. I think I went against him one time and I got an interception on him.
How you like me now?
Yeah, so that's my finest moment when people ask me, I played against T.O. I got an interception on him.
Yeah, that's cool. See, that's a cool little tidbit. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's got to be film out there. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna search the annals of the internet.
I'll send it to you. I got
it. That's I'll put that up for a Thundercast throwback. You better believe it. Believe it. Look, man, we're going to talk about some stats. I teased you with them earlier, but I went and found them, and I asked you if you know where you still rank, and would it surprise you to know that you still rank in the top 15 all time or better in 5 main DB categories: interceptions and pass breakups and passes defended. You still rank at least in the top 15. Some at least one in the top 6. You're number 6. So let me run it down. Let me make you feel real good for a minute.
Please do.
All right. Tied for 11th all time in interceptions in a season. Tied for 10th interceptions in a career. Tied for 15th in pass breakups in a season with 12 in 1994. Tied for 10th all time in passes defended, pass breakups plus interceptions in a season. 17 combined in 1994. And number 6 all time in passes defended in a career, 29, 10 interceptions, 19 pass breakups. How about that, my man? You're still hanging up there at the top of the game.
I'm about to get my shoulder pad. Let me put my shoulder pads
That's right. That's right. Second team All SoCon 1995. Man, a really, really impactful and historic career in one of the best eras in Marshall football. I'll be honest with you, man. I expected to see that name up there, and I knew it would still be up there.
Wow.
We've had some great ones come across, in the interim, in the last 2 decades, right? I mean, some really great corners and DBs. But still top 6 all time in passes defended in a career at Marshall University. And doesn't it just make you feel good that it happens to be number 29?
Man,
29 career passes defended for number 29.
That's awesome, man.
I mean, you can't write that script.
That's how you can't at all. Not at all, man.
You just absolutely cannot write that.
That's awesome.
Let me ask you one real serious question, and then we'll have a good time while we look to close her out. How about that? Who in your time at Marshall or just associated with Marshall would you say has had the biggest impact on your life?
Ooh. You know what? I would say honestly, as a collective group, the Herd brothers. I swear. I mean, just knowing that I can pick up the phone and call these guys, whether it be Aaron Ferguson, whether it be Uri Hill, whether it be Melvin Cunningham, or I can message Albert Barber or message, BJ Summers or, Thomas Maxwell doing well. It's an awesome feeling knowing that you still have that connection, and I still have that connection with guys that I played with, and will always have a connection with them for life. Mm-hmm. That's something that, matter of fact, we were just talking about Will Purnell the other day. Sent him a message for his birthday the other day. Just having that connection for life with these guys, to me, you can't. It's hard to explain. Mm-hmm. That's to me, that was that inspiration that you'll have that will never be taken away from you. Knowing that you play with these guys through the trenches, through the wins, through the loss, through the championships, through the losing the championship, but yet you still remain friends to this day. Tim Martin, all these guys, you can't explain it. But knowing that I'm friends with these guys, and I'm friends with these guys for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can dig it. I mean, we're experiencing that between us tonight, and I wasn't a player, but we're friends in a different way, right? And I still feel like if I needed to, or even just wanted to, I could pick up the phone and say, "Hey, man, I need you. I need you here. I need help." And it's not a question. It's
always going to be there. Always.
And I feel the same. And I feel the same way. Like you call me up and you say, "I need help." Well, I'm gonna be there. Give me a minute. I'll be there. Right. And that transcends more than just sport, right? Because you find a deeper connection through whatever, for those, a lot of the guys you were talking about, that deeper connection became on the field of battle with every Saturday, right? For other friends like me and you, it was in a different arena, but
absolutely,
I can dig that, man. It's so hard for me to ask that question, because if somebody were to ask me that question, I couldn't give you one person. I couldn't.
Right. It's hard.
You know how many of you guys were so instrumental in developing the guy that I turned into as an 18 through 22-year-old kid?
Right.
I didn't have any, I'm an only child. So when you talk about brothers, I found them at Marshall University. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why that school is so important to me, because it's like my family. Like, it's like, that's for real my brothers. I didn't have any, so that's them. And, so you can thank guys like Jayson for turning out the knucklehead that you see before you here today. Look, man, here comes the part in the show where this is what I do. I do it every time. I quiet down, right? I don't say a word. I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and I'm just going to let you speak for however long you want to go. And you can say whatever you want to say to whoever you want to say it to, man, because this is your platform, and I want you to get out anything that you feel like needs to be out there.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Just want to say to all the Herd brothers out there, man, from the 90s all the way up to now, the best feeling you have in the world is being a Marshall player. The best feeling that you're going to have is playing for that green and white, going out there in the trenches with your brothers, through thick and thin, tough and easy, hard, in the locker room, in the weight room, in classroom, walking on campus. You got brothers for life. I can honestly say that I have brothers for life. I appreciate the friendships that I have. I appreciate the friendship that I will have for life. Nothing can ever take anything away from being a Herd. There's no other feeling that you're ever going to have, knowing that you got that Herd brother. You can call them up anytime, any day and night, knowing that they're going to be there for you. Like I said, from Reggie Giles, from when I first got here, to Uri Hill right now, or Melvin Cunningham, or Theron Todd. These guys I would be friends with for a lifetime. And that started with Marshall. I started with Marshall. It didn't start in McKeesport. It didn't start in Pennsylvania. It started in Huntington, West Virginia, with these guys. And I'm always going to be a Herb brother. I'm always going to be friends with them. Regardless of the circumstances, I'm always there. I'll be that guy. You need somebody, call me. You need somebody to show up somewhere, I'm there. I'm always going to be there. And I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, Kenny, especially, and not only the Herb brothers, I got my Alpha Sigma Phi brothers.
Yeah.
Kenny, and Chris Parker,
yeah,
Joey Cunningham.
yeah.
You guys, got me when I was in grad school, man, and I totally appreciate the friendship that we had. Russ, Paul Horn.
Oh man, Tall Paul, dang.
My goodness, Goldsby.
Yeah.
I totally appreciate the friendship that I had with you guys too as well, because without you guys, one, we wouldn't have the friendship. We wouldn't have that friendship. We're gonna be friends for a long time as well. So I appreciate this, the fact that Huntington mold me, because I came as an 18-year-old. I think I left as a 36-year-old. So I was there more in Huntington than I was in my actual Keystone growing up. So just knowing that that was my adolescence growing point right there, when I growing up, was being Marshall, Thunder, and Herd, and I can never take that away, man. I will always be a Herd fan for life.
Well said. Well said. I don't know what I can say to come back from that to accentuate that, so I'm not even going to try. Check it out, y'all. I am KD Hugnall. That is Jayson Grayson, and this is Inside the Thunder. I'll see you next time. Later.